Param Vijayate Shri Kṛṣṇa Sankirtanam. Total world victory for Hare Krishna. Today, it is me and Prahlad again. We know you missed us for the lot, because yesterday we weren't here. We are very sorry. We apologize for that. Do we? I don't know. Today we're doing Bhagavad-gītā, verse 2. No, chapter 2, verse 10. Yeah. Anything to say, Prahlad?
Hello.
Okay, let's get started. Tam uvāca hṛṣīkeśaḥ prahasan iva bhārata senayor ubhayor madhye viṣīdantam idam vacaḥ. Solid. Tam.
Unto him
Uvāca
said
hṛṣīkeśaḥ,
the master of the senses.
You haven't finished that one. The
master of the senses, Kṛṣṇa,
prahasan
smiling,
iva
like that,
Bharata
O Dhṛtarāṣṭra, descendant of Bharata,
senayor
of the armies,
ubhayor
of both parties,
madhye
between,
viṣīdantam
unto the lamenting one,
idam
the following
vacaḥ.
words.
O descendant of Bharata, at that time Kṛṣṇa, smiling in the midst of both armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna.
And then if we look at the changes, there are no changes in translation.
Oh, for once.
Purport. The talk was going on between intimate friends, namely the Hṛṣīkeśaḥ and the Guḍākeśa. I think it's the first time Arjuna's being referenced as that. I don't remember it before. As friends, both of them were on the same level, but one of them voluntarily became the student of the other. Kṛṣṇa was smiling because a friend had chosen to become a disciple. As Lord of all, he is always in the superior position as master of everyone, and yet the Lord agrees to be a friend, a son, or a lover for a devotee who wants him in such a role. But when he was accepted as the master, he at once assumed the role and talked with his disciple like the master, with gravity, as it is required. It appears that the talk between the master and the disciple was openly exchanged in the presence of both armies, so that all were benefited. So the talks of the Bhagavad-gītā are not for any particular person, society, or community, but they are for all, and friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear them. I'm going to check if there's any... this is the first time that Arjuna is called that, so a bit of fact checking. Where's the V button on the keyboard? Never mind, I'll just use the other one.
Who's that?
It is not.
Pretty by hierarchy on the right where it says Bhagavad-gītā.
Ah. It is not. It is the second time. I don't remember that. Means one who conquers sleep. Sleep also means ignorance. Ah, interesting.
Damn,
Interesting
I must be
indeed.
ignorant then. 0 viewers. How sad.
How do I go back?
Right click and say that. Review accounts not accurate, but people watching later on.
Okay, now looking at the changes to the purport, there are a few. In the original it says, yet the Lord accepts one who wishes to be a friend. And the other one says, and yet the Lord agrees to be a friend. And then the or, one of the or's been removed for a for. And yeah, that is it. Well, the or has been also removed. Yeah. What do you think about that? Those changes?
Iffy.
Iffy? What's iffy about them?
Everything. No, I'm... Yeah, nah. It's not really iffy at all.
Well, if you read the sentence, where's the mouse? Can you see it?
If we decree that, the mouse ran off the clock. There we are.
What the hell? It disappeared. Anyway, if we read the sentence, it says, as Lord of all, he is always in the superior position as the master of everyone, and yet the Lord accepts one who wishes to be a friend, a son, a lover, or a devotee, or who wants him in such a role. Now, that sentence doesn't make a lot of sense reading it, but the changed version, as Lord of all, he is always in the superior position as the master of everyone, and yet the Lord agrees to be a friend, a son, or a lover for a devotee who wants him in such a role. That makes more sense. The manuscript, the original manuscript, in this position does say a lover of the devotee who wants him in such a caliber. So I would say that that change specifically where it says for instead of or, that is more accurate, and does make more sense to me. But the change to where it says Lord accepts one who wishes and then Lord agrees to be a friend, I don't think that's necessary. That's just unnecessary, and that's sort of the theme of the book changes as I've seen so far. There's these rare changes that make sense and do go closer to what Prabhupada wanted, because
what he wrote in his first draft, but we don't know if that's what he wanted because he might have talked to the editor, right?
Yeah.
So maybe clarify that point.
What was it again?
It takes it closer to the manuscript.
Yeah.
There's no way of telling whether that's what Prabhupada wanted.
Yeah.
Because he might have talked with the editor, seen the edit, and gone, "That's what I wanted to say." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it does go closer to the original manuscript. But
it's like if you're a musician, you do a demo tape in your garage, and then you go into a studio and work with a producer and bring out an album. You don't necessarily want to. I mean, people are interested in the demo tape, right? But
yeah.
Try creating that.
Yeah. So it's going closer to the original manuscript, or if you're making music, the original sort of demo for it. But the book is the finalized edited version that Prabhupada did approve of. So that's the version that we go with. And so, for me personally, I think that is a good change. Just because I would, or a devotee or who wants him in such a role. I know when I read the original, For me, the sentence doesn't make 100% sense. But I do get the gist of it. But changing it to for definitely clarifies the intention. So, yes, the original was a bit ambiguous, and the changed version is definite. It says, or a lover for a devotee who wants him in such a role, while the other one says, or a devotee or who wants him in such a role. I interpreted that as it could be a friend, a son, a lover, a devotee, or anything else that he wants, anything else who wants him in such a role. So yeah, it does change it slightly, but that's that, and that's the only change being made. And the reasoning for the change was what I had said, getting closer to the original manuscript. That's what Jayadvaita Swami says. Yeah.
It's a good change.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the worst change. It's not as bad as some of the changes we've seen before.
Yeah, and I think that's a sort of a theme. The small amount of rare changes that make sense, like spelling changes, and this one here, and then there are a whole bunch of ones that just don't make sense, like this one here. Accepts one who wishes is being crossed out and changed to agree, and there is no reasoning. And I think I heard somewhere that he said that he didn't want to have to explain every single little change that he made because people wouldn't understand it. But yeah, just no reason to. I mean, yeah, it is. I would say that is from sort of a style guide, because I know that accepts one who wishes is not the best English. Agrees would be what you would use instead of that. Except the one who wishes is sort of like waffling to add more word count to your essay, while you would use agrees. But there's no meaningful difference in what the original and the change is, and so there's no reason to change it. Just other than for funsies, or yeah, just saying that whoever changed it knows better. Talking about the actual purports and translation, what have you got to say?
I mean,
what the hell?
I got my cam. Okay, that's nice. Well, I think the purport, there are two things that I can pick up from there. There are probably more that other people can pick up, but okay. The Lord, even though he is, quite, he's Bhagavan, he's like the goat, he's best, but he's like a lot of people who are like quite up there, they won't hang out with like commoners and like, the lowlifes and the scum. But he comes down and he hangs out, he chills. He's a friend. Yeah. And it also applies to the Bhagavad-gītā. I'm literally just copying what's up there. This is my understanding. This is my explanation. I don't know, whatever. Yeah. Same with the Bhagavad-gītā. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be special. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be pretty. You don't have to be, have a special talent or something to read the Bhagavad-gītā. It's a book for all. Yeah. You don't have to be of a caste, like a specific varna, like not just brahmanas or kshatriyas can read it. You can be anyone. Yeah, that's what I got. You. Switch it off my cam, man.
Damn, I'm a ghost. I get a breath. Okay. So, yeah, I find it sort of interesting that Arjuna is referred to as Guḍākeśa in this particular purport, or in this verse, because in the previous sort of verses it was talking about Arjuna was talking about his lamentation not going away, talking about, it was just in general talking about his lamentation, and so him being referenced as Guḍākeśa in this verse, sort of implies that yes, the grief, or the what is it called? No, what word? Guḍākeśa means one who overcomes lamentation, I think. Yeah.
One who overcomes sleep or something.
Yeah, but then it says sleep is also the same as lamentation.
Ignorance.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, ignorance. Well,
I got something.
Yeah, I find it interesting that this is the second time that he's being referenced as that, and this is the so all the verses before have been, referencing his lamentation, his sort of ignorance, and how the ignorance and confusion is created through the, lack of duty. And so he has that, and so it's referencing him being called Guḍākeśa is referencing his ignorance, lamentation, confusion, and it also says the one who overcomes that. So, I don't know, you could say that because his reference is that in this particular one where he's submitting himself as a disciple to Lord Kṛṣṇa, and it says that you could infer that him being called Guḍākeśa in this one particularly, and him also becoming the disciple, and because he's overcoming the lamentation and confusion by him becoming the disciple, you could infer that. Also talking about so the talks of Bhagavad-gītā are not for any particular person, society, community, but are for all, and friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear them. I find that interesting. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I don't either.
Contemporary application.
Temporary application. I don't know.
What you guys
Neither.
think about the contemporary application? Come on.
No, man, that's the hardest thing to think about. Mystic, ghost, whatever your name
I
is.
mean, it's not the hardest thing, it's just that there's not
Which text are you doing?
210.
Didn't I do 210 yesterday?
No.
Okay.
Wait, did you?
We did 2.9 the day before, so he did 2.10 yesterday. We're meant to be doing 2.11.
Or what?
I didn't do 210.
What did you do?
2.9.
But
Yeah.
we've already done 2.9?
We didn't.
We've done 2.9. I swear to God, we've done 2.9.
Okay, this is Kṛṣṇa smiling, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken. He was smiling.
No, we didn't do this one.
Okay, we didn't do 2.9. Okay. No, we
Did not do it.
we were going to do it, but we didn't do it.
Wait.
Publication, please.
The other thing
Oh,
you
we
do,
did do
the
it.
contemporary application part, the other thing you do is like, sometimes people will say, and then you bring an objection.
Oh. I think this is.
I don't know.
Well, you can actually see in Prabhupada's Purport how he's done that at the end. Have a look.
So that's just the contemporary application.
Objections are also contemporary applications because people can field the objection as an interpretation in the present. So, like, considering Mayavad, impersonalist interpretations and refuting them also falls into that category.
What? Okay.
Well, I mean, like, if it says at the bottom here, the talks of Bhagavad-gītā are not for any particular person, society, community, for all friends and enemies are equally entitled to hear them. Now, come on. Where's the contemporary application combined with an objection to that?
Hey! When the vaccination mandates were going on, like, everybody should be allowed into that bar to get drunk or something, not just the people who are vaccinated. Nobody's special. Well, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, man.
No, you're in the right kind of realm, but
Why is it...
read
Yeah,
that
more
last
yellow.
sentence in the purport.
Why is it more yellow?
I just does that. It's like,
Change the lighting, dude.
no, it's...
Read the last sentence in the purport.
So
Look, I came up with one.
So the talks of Bhagavad-gītā are not for any particular person, society, or community, but they are for all, and friends or enemies are equally entitled to them.
Yeah, except for people who are in protests, right?
Mm.
Or people who are like,
Unvaccinated.
yeah, or occupying the, So it's a deviation to be like, no, you can't distribute books, or the Bhagavad-gītā is for everyone.
Mm. Well, I guess you could argue that technically they're not stopping they're not stopping the Bhagavad-gītā from getting to them. They just don't want their Bhagavad-gītā to be the one to give it to them.
Well, you create both sides. You argue both sides now. First you argue your opponent's argument, and then you argue against it.
Bro, it's too late in the evening for this,
it's not.
man.
First you argue against why Bhagavad-gītā should not be distributed at the Parliament protest.
Brings
and then
bad
you argue against that.
bad rep.
I mean, you guys were both there at the Parliament protest, right?
Yeah.
I was barely there.
Yeah, so ask her, you were there, Prahlad, share about how you were there, ask Isabella about when she was there and what she saw, and then create the whole thing. There you go.
Okay, talk.
So I went to
blah 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 on blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and
so
it
I
was
was-
like blah blah blah.
I was there
where?
at the Parliament protest, and I did books for like 22 days straight. For like 9 to 10 hours a day, I just sat at the table, talking to people coming past. Some people were interested. I was also the complaints department. If anyone didn't like what we were doing, I'd know about it. And some people were saying like, oh, you guys are too loud, or we don't want to hear your music, you're like forcing it on other people, we can't choose to like not hear it. I thought that one was interesting. And I was just there, so they asked us like, can you stop? And I was just like, yeah, nah. I talked to heaps of people, and I gave out quite a few books, quite a few Bhagavad-gītās. Actually, Bhagavad-gītās were the least popular book that I gave out, because everyone was like, oh yeah, I got that book, but I don't have these other ones. So a lot of the people who were there already had the Bhagavad-gītā. I asked if they had read it, and most people said no. I was like, oh well, go off and read it. Yeah, I notice a lot of people have the Bhagavad-gītā, but they haven't read it. So when I'm doing books, but yeah, being able to, giving everyone the opportunity to read the Bhagavad-gītā and gain the knowledge from the Bhagavad-gītā, because they're entitled to that. I think I was reading, maybe it was the last purport, the purport before, but it was talking about the different. Actually, it was something else completely. Never mind. But just having it, the Bhagavad-gītā available, equally entitled to everyone, friends or enemies. And so I don't know, saying that you shouldn't do it in one particular area to one particular group, just because they're an enemy or just because you don't like them. That's unshastric, as it says there.
Vaishnava aparad.
Can you argue it from their perspective?
Nah.
I can.
Yeah, you do it as well. You take the position of the opponent.
Bad rep. You know.
Yeah, so expand it.
I don't know. I haven't
then
really
argue
heard
it
many
powerfully.
arguments in this household against it. I have heard no arguments against it. So what do I say?
No, you know what it is.
Rory, you literally said, I can.
Yeah, you got it.
Proceeds to say, oh, I actually can't.
No, go for it.
Yep.
Bad representation of the cause, you know, like just going straight up to a protest, which is quite, like, the majority of protests, they're, you know, okay, I guess. But this one had a ton of bad publicity. And so the second you go there, you know, it's kind of giving a bad name. It's like when one sibling does something bad, but the other siblings get the blame too. So,
Oh.
the second someone goes there, the government would cut off their funding, which they didn't, I don't think, I don't know. So it's kind of like, yo, get your people out of there, because, you know, it's bad representation for you, and we might not pay you, so get them out of there. And then they chose not to get out of there. And so it's kind of like, well, you're cutting off funding to the majority of the thing, which they kind of need, you know. How are you going to preach and buy the books if you're broke?
But why would you associate the place where the books are being distributed to the organization that's distributing them? If you see someone distributing books outside of Pack and Save, where I know a lot of books are being distributed, you're not going to associate Pack and Save and books being distributed. And I know that it would be just because, like, because it's a bad
Rip.
Yeah, instead of it being like sort of neutral. But who you actually like valuing their opinion on your representation?
Whoever got that book? Oh yeah, I got that book from Pack and Save.
No, it's like you say you have bad reputation, but not everyone has the same opinion.
Yeah, I know.
So then you're valuing someone's opinion.
I'm being set up.
No, you should take that position that you created and just like now just assert it and vigorously defend it.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it. You don't have to believe in it to argue it. And this is how you explore the arguments to see which ones are powerful and how they work. So now argue it as hard as you can.
What was the argument? I wasn't.
It's called the Purport, taking the enemy's position.
I mean, I kind of see why they did it.
Yeah, so tell us.
Empathy. I literally do not know how to put it into words, but I haven't exactly had many people talk about it around me. About their side.
I can kind of see it, but I have no idea.
Oh my god, man.
Well, I can argue it. It's real simple. It's like, you guys are there and you're giving us a bad name. And we rely on our reputation having people like us and give us money and donations and stuff. And now people are bringing up the temple and saying, why are you guys supporting this anti-vax nonsense thing? How come you're supporting it? And we're like, we're not supporting it, but we just keep getting people calling us up and saying that. They're saying, I'm not going to donate any more money to the temple because you're supporting the anti-vaxxers. And then we say, we're not supporting the anti-vaxxers. And these are the people that we know about who are calling us. What about all the people who are not calling us and are not giving us money? And
Okay, we just got the argument from the Mystic Ghost.
yeah, so there you go. You can make the argument.
They can hear that, right?
No, I don't know. You make it. It's good practice.
So, basically, it's bad representation, and then people are calling up the temple and being like, yo, why are you supporting the anti-vaxxers? Why are you there? And then they are like, well, you know.
No, we. Like, you represent it as if it's you.
Well, and then we're like, okay, I'm getting personally invested in this now, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we're like, well, you know, it's not us, it's them, they're off doing their own thing, you know, you can't put it on us. And then they're like, well, still, because it's your name, we're gonna like stop paying you. And then the thing is with us, now we don't have the money to preach Krishna's name, we don't have the money to get the books, we don't have the money to maintain the temples. What happens if we can't pay off the mortgage and we lose the land for the temple? What then? We're gonna hold it in a little dingy house? Like, we need that money. And, you know, some of us live off the money that the temple gives us. So the second that money from the temple stops coming in, we're busted, we're gone, you know. We have no one to support us or our families. And look, our livelihoods depend on that. We rely on this for the food on our table, for our house. We need this. So them going off there and doing this whole little, we're praying in our little place, but it's just spreading Krishna's name. Look, I get it why it's good. I understand why they're doing it. But, you know, they're kind of destroying the organization in a way, you know. Okay, just tone it down. What am I meant to say?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Like, you guys are off chanting Hare Krishna, and then we're like, yo, can you please stop, you know, we rely on these donations, people aren't giving us those donations, we're going to go broke, we're not going to be able to have this place anymore, like, how are we going to preach? Like, we're not going to have that money to preach, and we need to preach, isn't that what Prabhupada says, you know, preach, 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 and spread the holy name. And you guys are like, we are spreading the holy name, but you realize, by spreading that holy name in that little space there, to only, like, how many people were there?
Thousands, 3,000, 4,000.
3,000, 4,000. That makes us not have the money to...
Plus everyone who sees it online.
Plus everyone who sees it online. That it makes us not be able to have the money to spread it to maybe 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. I don't know. How many thousands? So they're kind of making it about themselves. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. That's the Purport, the opposing party's argument.
Okay.
So now you have to refute that.
Now I'm personally invested in that side, man. I can't go, I'm going to switch up and be like...
Prahlad, you refute it.
Yeah, Prahlad, you refute. You refute.
Your argument is based on personal, temporary, material gain, and has no basis in Shastra, and only has basis on personal, temporary, material gain.
Okay.
Well, you got to try and disarm that objection.
And when you
I can't
when you
think.
said that how are we gonna preach if we lose our centers and our money and our temple and stuff? Well, the decision to ask us to stop doing it and tell us to stop doing it is not based on you wanting to continue to preach. That's just a byproduct.
What?
Yeah, no.
One of the reasonings is that you said, oh, we won't be able to continue to preach if we lose our money, right? And so continuing to preach should be the main objection to the preaching at the Parliament protest, instead of we lose our money and therefore we won't be able to preach. It should be, we might not be able to continue preaching if you keep preaching there, which is it's a stupid statement in the first place, but that's what it should be, instead of the temporary materialistic, we will lose our money or our funding, or we've lost our money.
We're in the material world, aren't we?
And our funding.
We're in this now. Like, you can't exactly do it like being a ghost somewhere high up, right?
You're not being a ghost.
This material body was given to us to do this stuff,
To preach, yes.
To preach, yes. And once we don't have the funds to preach, what are we going to do? Run after people screaming Hare Krishna after them like hobos?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I don't think that's a very good thing either,
The preaching can continue even if you don't have the money to do it.
But we won't get as many people as before, which means we won't get as many donations, which means we'll be a lot more poor, which means we won't be able to up the preaching campaign.
But the preaching campaign is down the bottom of your logical chain. It should be up the top of the logical chain.
Epic, guys, great debate skills with this. Thanks, guys. Thank you, I guess.
Why your reasoning isn't we won't be able to preach at the top?
I'll give you something from Prabhupada that captures that. He says, management follows preaching like a shadow.
Management follows preaching like a shadow. We need to manage our money so we can preach. I don't know.
No, but it's the other way around.
Yeah.
We need preaching, and then the manager follows. No, we have preaching, and then the manager follows the preaching in the shadow. You don't.
Yeah, like a shadow, like a person is there and the shadow is automatically there. The management
like
follows
conjoined
preaching
twins.
like a shadow follows a person.
Yeah.
If you try to capture the shadow without the thing, you'll have nothing. That's the point you're making, Prahlad.
Well, there you go. Quoting Prabhupada, and didn't even know it.
Well, create it. Yeah, create it.
Prabhupada said, management follows preaching like a shadow, and shadows usually behind you. But besides that, shadows will not be able to exist without preaching, and preaching can possibly exist without the shadow, but they're both interlinked. But the preaching comes first. So.
How do you argue against that from me?
Yeah, no, man, I ain't got anything.
It's in a letter to Satsvarupa in 1971. He says, yes, preaching is more important than managing. Just because you are preaching nicely and distributing so much prasadam, the management will follow like a shadow, and Kṛṣṇa will send you no end of help.
That is oddly specific.
Yeah. But now, argue against it based on the purport and Prabhupada's argument in the purport.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, both of you. Now examine what Prabhupada says in that purport. At the end of the purport.
He says, do it for everyone. Bhagavad-gītā should be for everyone. The holy name should be for everyone. And it is for everyone, but sometimes you gotta tone it down a bit so in the long run we can actually do stuff.
I mean, if you want to talk about some real inference that you can do, I'm studying to be a data scientist, so a lot of logic and stuff goes into that. So you could read it and say, so the talks of the Bhagavad-gītā are not for any particular person, society, or community, but they are for all, and friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear them. You could say that the the stoppage or the request to stop, you know, or the command or whatever to stop distributing books, prasadam, and doing harinam at anti-government events, you could say that goes along with this purport, because when it says they are equally entitled to hear them and they want to stop it, there's been a disconnect between the Bhagavad-gītā, or you could say the scriptures, or even Kṛṣṇa himself. There's been like a disconnect from the people who want that to be stopped. Yeah. That is the contemporary application. Anything else?
No.
From the ghost or other person?
Good work doing both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been there.
Oh, what about that last point that you brought up, Isabella, about like the long-term kind of thing, right? Why don't you create that argument again? Because that argument is more... That argument
Argumenting.
Yeah. Go for that one.
Sometimes you've got to make sacrifices. And honestly, sacrifice preaching at this place so we can actually have money in the long run to preach more. See? For example, if you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and to get out you need to cut off your foot.
Stop spinning, because you're going to mess up the audio.
Okay. Oh, there's something already on the back of it. Oh my god, there is something already on the back of it.
So what were you saying?
I'm dizzy. Sorry, I just gotta regain my life. You know, if you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and the only way to get out is to cut off your foot or a finger or something, you know. If you wanna, like, live, do that. Of course you're gonna do that, you know, unless you're, like, really, really scared and you're like, no, I don't wanna... Maybe there's hope, and then there's probably not going to be hope, and you're probably going to die rotting between that rock and a hard place, and you're going to die of starvation. That's cute. Just, maybe just this once, just give up that need to Yeah, no, I ain't got nothing, man.
No, keep going on that. Yeah, it's just not responsible or mature to
yeah, it's really immature to do that. You know, grow up. Think about the long run. Be responsible.
And then you should add a psychological analysis of the people who are doing it into that.
They seem like crazy people.
Yeah, but what do you think is the... You know, they psychologically analyse their motives. They agree with the protesters,
They agree with the protesters. The majority of them have not got the vaccine. They are kind of the embodiment of the protesters and the anti-COVID vaccine movement. So, you know, by them saying, oh yeah, we're just here, like, doing our thing, preaching Kṛṣṇa consciousness, we don't actually have, like, this isn't political or... Well, it is political. You guys have your own little agendas that you're going off, and, you know, you can't say there's nothing personal about it, because there is. You know.
Correlation is not equivalent to causation.
I have no clue what both of those mean.
Just because, okay, let's say you and me go to a store, and you and me are both wearing shoes. Does that mean that we have something, that everything we have is in common because we both are wearing shoes at the store?
Yes, we both like our feet to be protected.
But what about everything else we think? You might be like, yeah, I love wearing high heels. I'll be like, damn, I like wearing my steel armor plate shoes or something.
Okay, that's a confusing analogy. How does that apply?
Okay, just because two things are at the same place doing something does not mean that there's a causation, a common causation between two of us. Like, in the world example, if I'm there at the parliament protest and someone else is there at the parliament protest, that does not mean that we both have the same sort of thoughts or agreements.
But you agree on one thing.
Well, but does that
one big thing,
What's that?
which is kind of political.
Which is?
The COVID vaccine stuff and how it's bad and I don't know, whatever.
So then,
Bro, I'm gonna get
But
cancelled
then-
for this, man.
No.
but then if that's the thing, then instead of them saying, oh, no, doing an anti-government protest, it should be against like anyone who hasn't taken who's against the vaccine. It should be against anyone like that everywhere, but instead it's at that one particular like anti-government event.
Is it even an anti-government event though?
Kind of.
Well, okay, let's say they classify it as anti-government events. I am at the anti-government event. Does me and someone else being at the anti-government event mean that we both are against the government?
Yes.
No, it doesn't.
Why would you go to an anti-government event if you weren't?
Maybe because you want to check it out.
Maybe because you wanted to go there and chant, give books, prahasan. There's a whole bunch of people there. Just
That do some surveys.
that's what I mean
Oh my
by
god, man! You're not even in the podcast. Get out.
that's what I mean by correlation.
Oh, but
It's a different
goddamn.
motivation.
Correlation does not equal causation. Just because both of you are there doesn't automatically mean that we both agree on everything.
And then the other thing is, even if you do, so what?
Yeah.
Even in that one person, the correlation...
See, this is why you have been setting me up for this,
No.
man.
Even the correlation between, these devotees, they agree with the protesters, but that doesn't mean that's why we're there chanting. We might agree with them, but so what?
Exactly. Still,
It's just an speculation that people can make.
the
you know?
the
We are in the same place. So that, we can give an example, someone get killed and somehow you end up in the same place at the same time. Doesn't mean you are the killer. Simply you were going to do something and karma brought you
But you're a
back.
witness to the
Yeah,
crime.
but even if you accept that everything about it, well, you agree with the protesters, you didn't take the vax, you're against the vaccines, you're against the mandates, that still does not establish the causation of you chanting there.
yeah.
Because you could go there and be there to protest the government, and that doesn't cause you to chant Hṛṣīkeśaḥ and give people prahasan there. It's just correlated.
Yeah.
I also happen to breathe oxygen and drink water like everyone else there, but it's correlated. It's not causative.
Yeah.
But what they're saying is, you're allowed to do all of those correlated things, but you can't chant Hṛṣīkeśaḥ.
Yeah. So that is collapsing the correlation and causation of people being there. Yeah, which is a big no-no in data science. I remember seeing a graph and it was like, it's a website and it's like two extremely specific like examples of stuff like the amount of trees in this western Ohio county versus the population of like Venezuela, and it was like almost 1-to-1 rise and fall for like 6 months, and I was like, damn, there's no way that can't be a coincidence. But
There's
yeah,
another joke which is about the number of pirates and the global CO2 level.
yeah, it's just like,
As the number of pirates goes down, CO2 goes up.
yeah, so correlation does not have a causation, which, yeah, it is naive and incorrect to think so.
But even if
I'm
you
being set up.
accept...
I'm being set up to being cancelled. You know what?
What are you talking about?
Argue against it and then use it.
No, you have to be able to argue against it. I can argue any case where I have an opinion, I can argue the counter case better than my opponents can.
Okay, that's you.
No, but this is how you have to be. This is the Vedic way. You cannot, if you hold an unexamined opinion, see, the the way the Vedanta Sutra works in Vedic logic is first you state something, then you state the counter argument against it. You'll find it in Prabhupada's purports. He'll argue against his point in the purport, and then he'll argue against that. Some people might say that, you know,
Yeah.
and then he'll argue against it. He can argue both sides. You have to be able to argue your opposition's position.
I don't really want to argue opposition's position because I don't want to get into a conflict in the first place.
Well, that is a problem.
What's that?
If you don't want to
Yeah,
argue,
conflict with like.
if you don't want to
personal things.
argue it in the first place, your argument is either wrong, or you're just wrong.
Okay.
Because if you're right,
Your argument is wrong. Or
if-
you're wrong.
if you believe that your position is right, you're gonna fight for that position. You're gonna like be like, "Yep, I'm correct." You're not gonna be like, "No."
Take the high road, man.
I
Don't
don't
be
wanna
like,
talk
I'm
about
gonna pity squabble about it because I think it's right. But you know what? What if you could be wrong?
See,
you could actually
even
be
if
wrong.
you take all of the arguments and you accept them, the long term, you know, the reputation and everything, it's like, and at the end of all of that, here it says that everyone has the right to hear the Bhagavad-gītā.
And you-
So we're here giving them the Bhagavad-gītā because they have the right to hear it.
Or they can hear it
But
when they're
you
not
can
there.
oppose the right to hear it, right?
You can, but it places you in contradiction to the purport.
Or they can hear it when they're not there. It doesn't say they're entitled to it all the time.
Hmm.
And, you know,
But unfortunately, what you've done there is you've placed some other consideration over and above this. And at the end of the day, our priority structure is simply this. This is more important than getting the money. You know, the consequences or what you say might happen in the future. In other words, what we're actually dealing with here is your fear of losing the money. It's not even losing the money, it's your fear of losing the money. It's your fear of losing your reputation. You're asking us...
There's nothing wrong in that.
Nothing wrong in what?
The fear of losing money, fear of losing
But
something.
fear is it's an illusion. Doesn't exist. Danger exists. Fear doesn't exist. You're creating with your mind.
Oh yeah. There's someone just up to my
well,
at my
Fear-
throat with a knife. Yeah. I'm not scared at all. It's just an illusion. I'm not gonna die.
I said danger exists.
Yes.
Fear doesn't.
Fear is
So
the human's way of.
If you make a thought, if I go to that place, they're going to hate me. You haven't even gone to that place, but you're already thinking about being hate, and therefore fear comes. But you haven't even got there. You see how you create fear? Doesn't exist because you haven't even been there.
one of the comments says, the bhaktas always win even if they seem to lose.
That's cool. Who said that?
Rupert M. Cameron.
Yeah, man, that's sick. The devotees always win even if they seem to lose. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's like you can't lose. If you just stay with the devotee, it's like going with the I'm scared of this or the money or anything like that. Where does it say that in Bhagavad-gītā? Anywhere. Any of the purports. Where is that in there at all?
It is not. Anyway, coming up to 50 minutes.
Coming up to an hour.
Do you want to read the thing? Hit us out.
Fear is the human's way of protecting themselves.
Nope.
Tam uvāca hṛṣīkeśaḥ prahasan iva Bharata senayor ubhayor madhye viṣīdantam idam vacaḥ. Okay, bye.
No, you gotta read the translation.
O descendant of Bharata, at that time Kṛṣṇa, smiling in the midst of both armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming or tuning in. Thank you for the comments. There'll be more later. I read them. So hit me with Prahlad the greatest.
Don't
And,
say Prahlad sucks. Say Prahlad sucks. If I see Prahlad is the greatest comment out there, man, I will be at your house tonight and I will turn up with a knife. And then I wonder how you're gonna feel. Fear? Because I will come and I will stab you. It's a joke.
there is a special rule in bhakti. Man, you read that.
Anya bilis.
Anyavilashitam shunyam jnanakanam madhye anavritam.
All right, man.
In the world, it's
In the word ita includes calling out to Kṛṣṇa in an emergency.
Everyone there should chant Hare Krishna, isn't it?
no, but we'll get in trouble. They're gonna say we're not good. Anyway.
Their logic is crazy. They said, because people chanting Hare Krishna creates an association with ISKCON, therefore if you go there and chant Hare Krishna, you'll be sanctioned.
Alright, the sanctioning part.
That is a self-centered view.
Param Vijaya Shri Krishna Senayor.
There's a self-centered view because the chanting of the Hare Krishna should be creating, or it does create, an association with Kṛṣṇa more than ISKCON. Like if you're there chanting Hare Krishna, you're like, damn, I wonder where this comes from. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's coming to me. ISKCON. Like, for just someone coming past, they hear the chanting, they ain't gonna connect the dots without doing some like research. Like, who are these people? I mean, that is a possibility, but it's not how it's supposed to happen. But anyway, thank you guys for coming. See you next time. Total world victory of Hare Krishna.
You didn't even say it in Sanskrit.
You said it.
Yeah, really quickly. Say it again.
Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Total world victory of Hare Krishna.
Woo!